Welcome to Paranormal Almanac with your host, Kurt Sandvik.
Kurt Sandvik, and on this week's edition of Paranormal Almanac, more lake monsters. Not a monster. Boy, I got to tell you, that theme song by Holden Yeager has the best bwomp in the business. Absolutely love it. I don't give him enough credit for that one. Look for Holden Yeager wherever you find Holden Yeagers, and he's the best Holden Yeager there is. Anyhow, that's right, we're back. It's 87 degrees out, and I'm drinking hot coffee because I am tired. You know, they say, like, oh, I'll sleep more this weekend and I'll be caught up, or I'll try and not do that much this week and I'll be caught up and sleep. I've been saying that for about 5 years now. I have not caught up on sleep, nor do I think I can. And if you're hearing any weird rumbling noises, that's the coffee maker behind me. It sounds like a drunken, angry raccoon. It doesn't say it's showing up, but boy, it's like the whole time behind me. So hopefully the microphone doesn't pick it up. But anyhow, that's right. I'm your host, Kurt Sandvik. Welcome to another edition of Paranormal Almanac. We're going to get right into the people that make it happen. Shout outs to the patrons. I know some people really, really hate this and say that this brings the quality of the show down and it's not as professional because I do shout outs and it takes 4 minutes for me to get into everything. Relax. If it wasn't for these patrons, this show wouldn't be happening anymore. Shout outs to Sea Blue 36. Shout outs to Sophie Alice, your local cryptid, Flory, Jen, Danny, Sarah Jane, Angie, Lisa, Curious Hedgehog, Diana, Mr. J, George Berg, KC the Pit. Wow, it's. I don't like the fact that it's editing people's names now. It says Casey the, and I know it's Casey the Pitbull, Casey the Pity with the puppies, Deb B, GC, Newt MacGyver on it, B Melty, Avril, Loch Ness, not a monster, even though it doesn't say that anymore. I know it's there. Stacy, Leviathan, Stiggy, Johnny the Pommy, JT, hey, howdy, hi, by the way, JT, Doogie Whore, Mike G, Tracy B, Richard, Alec, Karen, Duran, Lori, Rebecca, Ann, Stephen Share, Jane Ann, Jennifer, Heather G, Zuzus, what's it? Paula, Nico, Share, and the Mouse, hey, howdy, hi. Tortuga, Andy, I hope you're good. I hope you're good, Nico, Share, and the Mouse. I hope you're doing good there. Tortuga, Andy, Virginia, Tony the, what is Tony the? It's the Magician, that's right. Vicky, Crow, Isabel. Boy, I gotta fix that. I don't like the fact that they've changed this, so I can't see your guys' full names now. Jen, Amber, Tracy, Sandy, Paige, Couch, Scott, Andrea, Vanessa, If I Was the Devil. Elizabeth, Sherry, hey, howdy, hi. Art Muffin, Tim, East, it says East. I know it's East Clintwood. You're pissing me off, Patreon. Kenneth, Alexandra, Zozo the Demon. Hayden, Cindy, Ashley, Robin, Lauren, Russell, Isabel, Audra, Dorian, Cindy, Jerry, Jeff, Lawrence, the Lauren Strawn, Veronica, Autumn, Carolyn, Nanashi, Todd, Jamie, and Elijah Hendrickson, Dan, Laura Pitts, and the one, the only, the amazing, the best gamer fan. All right, here's a late, so if you made, 3 special shout-outs. Sorry. Let's do the 3 special shout-outs first before I get ahead of myself. To Joe Teague, my boy Stitch, and a very special birthday week to Buzz. Happy birthday, Buzz. If you don't know who Buzz is, you don't listen to this show well enough because most of the Paranormal Almanac or Paranormal News bumper music is by the incredible Buzz Lee. Absolutely incredible. Friend of the show. He's the best. Happy birthday. Anyhow, what I was about to say was, here's a late announcement. Me and one of the Paramaniacs, Scott, are going to be hanging out this weekend. So if you're in the Los Angeles area and you want to get up early and you want to go to Hollywood Forever Cemetery this Saturday. I'm trying to look it up while I'm talking. Sorry, that's why I'm sounding this way. I'm trying to figure out what time are we going. I already forgot. It's like 8 a.m. or something, like 9 a.m. Here we go. Scrolling through. There we go. 10:30 a.m. this Saturday. What is that? June the 13th? Yes, this Saturday, June 13th. If you would like to hang out with me and a paramaniac named Scott, who seems like a very cool guy, I like him, we're going to just wander around Hollywood forever for just a little bit. We're not going to spend days there, but, I mean, you could spend hours and hours and hours there. But we're just going to hang out for a little bit and then maybe go get a Pink's hot dog. So if you'd like to join in, more the merrier, unless you're going to kill me, in which case, come on, it's a cemetery. That seems like that's easy. That's too easy. You don't kill somebody in a cemetery. Sure, it's a good place to hide a body, but come on. But, yeah, so if you want to hang out this Saturday, June 13th, meet at Hollywood Forever at 10:30. Be real easy to find us, I'm assuming. Just what you want to do is you want to go in, then you want to head off to like the southeast until you find the lake. If you can find the lake, you will be basically finding us because that's where all of the celebrities are. I assume that's where we're going to be walking around and checking out. I'm definitely stopping by Paul Rubens, his gravesite. But I also want to try and find Vampira's because I've never found hers as far as I recall. And, I want to make a special stop there too. But yeah, you're invited. You want to hang out with me and a paramaniac. Let's do it. But anyhow, let's get right on into it. Let's get into paranormal news. Hold on. Wasn't prepared. Take it away, Buzz.
Strange things happen every day. Keep a watch out and be on your way. That's just the way the universe moves. But now it's time for paranormal news.
Remix.
Have you ever seen Bigfoot riding on the back of Nessie while being sucked up into the sky by a UFO, all to the soundtrack of a choir of ghost cats, being led by a black-eyed child? Is this story true? Well, there's only one place you're gonna find out.
Get all my news from paranormal news. Listen carefully for the clues. The stories are strange and bizarre. It makes you wonder just who we are. This is paranormal news. Paranormal news. There's something in the shadows.
Take it away, Kurt.
Thank you, birthday Buzz. Happy birthday.
Paranormal news.
I hope you did have a great birthday, Buzz. I honestly do. I think you're a very, very, very cool guy. I have no idea how old you are. It just dawned on me. I don't know how old you are, but happy damn birthday, however old you are. All righty. First story in paranormal news. UFO whistleblower claims billions in secret spending has been hidden from Congress. And Kurt says, well, I mean, yeah, come on. Don't be dumb. Of course it is. An unidentified aerial phenomena whistleblower and former Air Force intelligence officer David Grush accused intelligence agencies on Tuesday of hiding billions of dollars in secret government spending from Congress. As lawmakers renew demands for records they say federal officials continue to withhold. His investigations uncovered what he described as slush funds, which are pools of money allegedly operating outside of normal congressional oversight channels worth billions of dollars annually that are allegedly used to support activities operating outside normal oversight channels. Well, you just said that, Grush. There's also a real fraud, waste, and abuse issue. During my investigation, I found slush funds to the tunes of billions of dollars per annum for these activities. What's the difference between an annum and an annual? Does anybody know? I know you can't. You're probably telling me right now, but annum is Latin for a year, and it seems like it's the same word. All right. Anyhow, yeah, let's get to the UFOs, though. He did not elaborate on the claim or provide any evidence. Sure, why not? let's see. All right, I guess that's it for this story. I thought they were actually going to, I don't know, talk about UFOs on an article that had UFOs in the headline, but don't worry. There's many a UFO episode coming up. I've been working on the next batch of the documents, not the Freedom of Information Act documents, but the Department of War documents. There'll be plenty more UFO episodes coming up. But next in paranormal news, filmmakers claim they've caught America's Loch Ness Monster, not a monster, on video. My eyes were popping out. I doubt that. But if you can close this ginormous ad over it, there we go. Richard Rossi and Kelly Tabor filmed a children's movie based on Champ, the mythical serpent-like creature that for decades had been rumored to lurk in the 125-mile-long Lake Champlain, which straddles upstate New York, Vermont, and part of Quebec. Spoiler, I will not be talking about Champ any more than this on this week's episode. But it was only when they were editing parts of the footage 2 years later that they saw something swimming behind their small boat, which they are convinced is proof that Champ is real. Well, I agree. I believe that. When I saw it, I saw a skinny neck and the body got larger. The video purportedly shows Champ lurking behind the filmmaker's boat. I want to see the damn video. I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Come on. There's no video. There's a photo of it, which is really intriguing. But I wanted to see the video of it, and apparently they don't have it. So in keeping things moving, because, again, people are complaining that it takes too long for me to get the topic at hand, even though I'm talking about a lake monster right now on a lake monster episode. Take that, peoples. Up next in paranormal news, 2 ladies, a dog, a lighthouse, and a possible Bigfoot encounter on a beach in Michigan. That's right, we're going to my home state for this one. Here we are. Visibility wasn't great, and the 2 witnesses and the dog saw a large silhouette. All right, who interviewed the dog? Saw a large silhouette of what was described as a dark figure with the build of a very big lumberjack with no neck. So it was either a huge lumberjack without a neck or a possible Bigfoot. It was sent to the Bigfoot Field Research Organization by a woman named Diane, who was visiting Paradise, Michigan from the Lansing area with her sister Denise and dog. They were accompanied by their Doberman named Snoop Dogg, and during their sightseeing trip in May, the dog was spooked before a sighting at Whitefish Lighthouse. I've been to Whitefish Lighthouse when they visited nearby Barb's Beach. When they returned to Barb's Beach the morning of their encounter, May 19th, the dog wanted to go back to the car. Diane told her sister that there must have been a bear or a wolf in the area because the dog wasn't scared easily. Says the dog doesn't scare easily, but sure. Then at dusk later that night, the 2 sisters both saw a dark, upright figure on the beach at Whitefish Lighthouse. What just happened? Why did you skip ahead? Near a large pile of driftwood by the shore. They could see the figure ducking down when a flashlight they were using was pointed in its direction. The Doberman alerted them to the presence of something in the pile of woods and started pulling the wind back towards the front of the lighthouse. Smart dog. That's when they ran and got the hell out of there. Now, I will say, I've been to that area. There are a lot of bear sightings in that area. It very, very easily could have been a big-ass bear, but, I wasn't them. I don't know. So we'll say it could be. Yeah, could be. Alrighty, up next is haunted real estate, one of my favorite things. And I think I might have talked about this house previously, but it's back on the market. It is one of the oldest houses in Pasadena. It was built in 1910, but actually started being built in 1905. It's huge. It's 12,500 square feet, 8 beds, 10 baths. It is known as the Kingsley McComber Lunkenheimer home, which, that name just rolls off the tongue. Kingsley McComber Lunkenheimer home. It is a phenomenally gorgeous house. It's up for sale for $9.75 million, which, is a lot of money. I'm not going to say it's not, but when you look at this house, it is insanely worth it. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's got almost like an Asian kind of style architecture that from 1910, obviously, but it's got 17th century swinging doors. But the reason it's not here, it's purportedly haunted by multiple ghosts. Why? Well, I'll let this person tell us why.
This is one of those mansions. But if you were ever curious what nearly $12 million could get you in Pasadena, then you're gonna want to check out this new listing. Welcome to the Lunkenheimer house. Despite the listing claiming the house was built in 1910, construction actually began in 1906, when
1905.
Ohio millionaire Carl Frederick Lunkenheimer purchased 2 acres of land and a house from A.K. Macomber, and then enlisted famed architect Joseph Blick to design a 10-bedroom home. And despite a few alterations over the years, this has pretty much been it for over a century. It also makes it one of the 3 oldest homes in the Oak Knoll neighborhood, and this house has seen some stuff over the years. Now, Carl made his millions in brass, his company in Cincinnati supplying almost all the brass to U.S. ships exclusively. His health, as well as that of his first bride, Alice, wasn't great, which, like hundreds of other Midwesterners and East Coasters, brought them out to Pasadena, where they fell in love with it. Unfortunately, his wife would die from consumption in 1905, but fear not, he'd go on to marry her sister within a few months. The warm air sadly couldn't save poor Carl either,
So
and
that's
at
one
age
death.
39,
Now
he
two.
died of what
He
was
died.
ultimately deemed a heart event in the home in 1908. It is also where his funeral would be held. Fear not, this is not the last death to occur in the home, nor the funeral. His second wife, Clara, would remarry to an Edwin Bartlett Schindler. Why his middle name is Clara's maiden name is not a rabbit hole I chose to go into, but I'm assuming it means they were probably related in some capacity.
Yeah.
They'd eventually move out of the home and a new family would take ownership in 1920. Robert Fullerton was an Irish-born lumberman who definitely made a pretty penny. He'd purchased the home in his 80s, and it really feels like a string of bad events would happen during their residency. In 1924, during one of their famous lady luncheons, the event took a turn and what would become one of my favorite headlines I've ever found in my over 10 years of research: garbage is served at luncheon. It seems their Russian maid Olga had a fit of insanity, and instead of serving food, brought in a 10-gallon bucket and started dumping garbage and, I quote, swill on the ladies,
I
who
like it.
promptly lost their minds. Cops came and arrested her on charges of insanity. They would then have a string of robberies. Their son Robert Jr. would almost die in a horrific horse accident, then later in a bad accident when he was hit by a car, and then in 1932, his wife Fanny would die of a sudden illness in the home that lasted less than a day. Robert Sr., however, would almost make it to 100 years old when he died in the home just 3 months shy of his birthday in 1945. The house has had many owners since. Rumors are a famous televangelist even owned it, but the current owner, a philanthropist,
All right, that doesn't matter. So there's been at least 6 deaths in the house that I can find. And again, the house is rumored to be haunted by multiple ghosts. So again, a phenomenally cool house. When I get this house, see, manifesting, when I get this house, I would definitely do it in a very Art Deco-y kind of way, and then do a very bamboo-y, tiki bar, obviously. But it's an absolutely gorgeous house. It's up for sale. Haunted by multiple ghosts. You gotta love that. And last but not least, in paranormal news, a thrift store donation of a human skull as deputies looking for answers. It's happened again, and happened again in Florida. That's right. For the second time, a person donated a human skull to a thrift store in Florida. The detectives are still trying to identify and speak with the person who may not have been aware it was an actual human skull. And anyone with information is please asked to please reach out to Detective Chris Kraft in Florida. Yeah, another human skull. You gotta love that. I never find human skulls when I go to thrift stores. I mean, I've got like 3 human skulls to my right that I bought in an estate sale, but never at a thrift store. If it was cheap enough, I would buy one. Why the hell not? All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. We are back, and on this edition, let's talk about more lake monsters, not a monster. That's right. One of my favorite types of cryptids. Again, I'm going to say it later in this episode. Don't worry, I know it. But I would rather swim with any lake monster, not a monster, than any known fish. Because all of the monsters I'm about to talk about seem pretty not monstery. They do nothing monstery at all. Just like Nessie. Nessie, the sweetest, just swimming around, having fun, minding their own damn business. Just, they aren't monstery. Look, I would love it for the show If Nessie this year just like snapped and started eating up tourists along the bank of Loch Ness, like all of a sudden Nessie just got tired of people's crap and snapped, but they don't. Lake monsters don't. And most lake monsters, the most monstery thing that lake monsters do is swim by, minding their own damn business, or they'll swim by and then look at you. Look, that doesn't make anybody a monster. Anybody that walks by right now, I got two bay windows on either side of me. They walk by and I look at them and then they call up the police. And some monster guy was looking at me. He's just, as I was walking by, he just looked at me. No. Another thing I'm going to say before we really get into this episode, which is going to happen right now, don't worry. I hate that this thing that people do with non-Nessie, non-Loch Ness Monster Nessie, this thing that people do where they rhyme whatever lake monster they have with Nessie for no reason. Don't know what I'm talking about? Well, let's get into it. Let's start with one of those first and move to my home state again of Michigan and to the Great Lakes, because there we have some great lake monsters. I don't mean they are great lake monsters. I mean they live in the Great Lakes. Know what I mean? They're great lake monsters, not great lake monsters. Doesn't matter. Anyhow, first up we have Bessie. See? I told you. I hate it. I hate this name. Let's get into it. I talked about one Bessie sighting on a previous lake monster episode forever ago, but I never gave Bessie the episode she deserves. So let's see if this is it. We go to northeastern Ohio and Michigan. There is a lake monster in Lake Erie. Lake Erie. That, in my opinion, should be named Erie. Like spooky kind of Erie. They could easily do it. They could change the naming spelling of it. It's a homonym. But no, they named it Bessie. Why? Well, because it rhymes with Nessie. Again, this is dumb. But even though it was first sighted in either 1793 or 1817, depending where you get your information, the name Bessie hasn't been around that long. It was actually chosen during a 1980s naming contest in Ohio, and was additionally inspired by the nearby Davis Bess Nuclear Power Station. Nope, still dumb, don't care. I don't care that there's a nuclear power station right there that has the word Bess in it. Don't name it Bessie. It's not like the sighting started after they built this nuclear power station right there, and then all of a sudden this lake monster grew out of the sludge or whatever. It's not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing. This thing has been seen since 1793 or 1817. It doesn't need to be named Bessie. Look, if you took over, 160 years to come up with a name, and you chose Bessie, you failed that cryptid. My rant is over. Don't worry. I still think Bessie is a dumb name. Now, like I said, it was first sighted in either 1793 or 1817, depending on where you get your info, but sightings actually go back a lot further, thanks to the Native American tribes of the area. That's right, the Native Americans spoke of multiple monsters in the Great Lakes and named them the Onier. The Iroquois tribes, especially the Seneca, spoke of this dragon-like horned water serpent named Oniar. These creatures were believed to lurk in the depths of the Great Lakes and also in the Niagara River. They were said to have poisonous breath, could capsize canoes, and would consume travelers. Look, the thing about Great Lakes, and for those people that don't really know it, they really are Great Lakes. They are insane. They're basically oceans. The biggest Great Lake, Lake Superior, is basically an ocean. It was like a freshwater ocean. But even still, there shouldn't be anything even remotely the size of Bessie in it. So, it's known as the South Bay Bessie, sometimes known as the Lake Erie Monster. Not a monster, but still better name. I'm going to go with the 1793 date, and let's go back to that. But before I do, Bessie is reported to be snake-like and 30 to 40 feet long, at least a foot in diameter with a grayish color. And there's another sea serpent that may be Bessie or Bessie related called the Mishipeshu, or the underwater panther by the local Native American tribes. The Ojibwa, yeah, and the Iroquois. Again, they described it having like the head of like a giant cat, sometimes a dog, dagger-like spikes of teeth, sometimes dagger-like spikes going down its back. It was revered as the master of all water creatures. And many people think, and I'm one of them, that at one time there were sea serpents in the Great Lakes, and these native people's stories were actual sightings. But as with most things cool, you know, they kind of died out a long ago, or maybe there might be just like one or two left swimming. But they're being seen, and being seen fairly often. Bessie has some sightings to her. I'll give her that. Like I said, now we'll go back to 1793. That is when the captain of a sloop named Felicity was shooting at ducks north of Sandusky, Ohio. He said he startled a large snake creature that he described as more than a rod, which is 16 and a half feet in length. And it came up with a snake-like head, or snake-like neck, not head, snake-like neck, looked around and then took off because he was shooting at ducks. Then cut to July of 1817. The crew of a schooner reported a 30 to 40 foot long serpent. So it's gone from 16 and a half feet to 30 to 40 foot long. It was dark in color. Later that same year, another boat crew spotted a similar animal, this time copper colored and 60 feet in length. This time they shot at it with muskets, which had no visible effect on it, and the creature swam away. So we have already, same year, 3 different lengths, 16 and a half feet, 30 to 40 feet, and at least 60 feet, and different colors. One said dark in color, one said black, and one said copper in color, which I guess they could all technically be, depending on how the light hit it, the same. But in my opinion, it seems like there seems to be multiple Bessies at this point. Now let's get to the, let's get to the good. Well, not the good, but the most intense. Third 1817 sighting. It takes place near Toledo, Ohio, when French settlers, 2 brothers named Dussault, encountered a huge monster, but not in the water, on the beach. They said it was writhing in what they took to be death throes. Again, remember, this isn't the ocean. This is a Great Lake, which again is essentially an ocean, but still. So this long, eel-like, serpent-like, snake-like creature, they said was between 20 and 30 feet in length. Oh, I'm sorry. This one wasn't the shape snake-like. I apologize. This one was not the snake-like. Kurt, look at your notes. This 20 to 30 foot in length one was not shaped like a serpent, though. They said it was shaped like a large sturgeon, except, and here's the more weird part, except that it had arms. So the brothers noped the hell out of there, and when they returned just a little bit later, they got a little courage up and went back. The creature had disappeared. They figured it had died and was carried off by the waves after it died, which isn't what happens to beached, whales or porpoises or mammals. Like if they beach, they typically stay right there on the beach, and the waves just kind of, lap them and they move them, slowly, but they don't come back out in the water and gone just a short time later. But that one is very odd. A large sturgeon, that would be weird enough because there's no sturgeon in Lake Erie. A large sturgeon with arms, definitely not something that has ever been reported in Lake Erie as far as I'm aware of. They said that all that was left of it were the marks on the beach and a number of silver scales the size of silver dollars. So huge, so really big scales. And again, these are people that knew the area, knew the waters, and knew what was in the waters. And they're still seeing this kind of stuff. The next not as exciting sighting happened by the entire crew of a ship bound from Buffalo, New York to Toledo, Ohio in July of 1892. So, a good 60, 70 years later, the crew, including the captain, saw a large area of water approximately 1/2 mile ahead of them, churning up and foaming. So they're like, hey, what's going on over there? So as they approach it, they saw a huge sea monster, sea serpent, that appeared to be wrestling about in the waters as if fighting with an unseen foe. Now, they observed the creature relax itself and stretch out to a full length. Based on their boat, they estimated the full length to be 50 feet and 4 feet in circumference. So huge. And they were up close. They were very close to it. They said its head was sticking up above the water, an additional 4 feet. The brownish creature's eyes were described as viciously sparkling. All right, let's pause right there. That does it. When I die, I need someone to describe my eyes like that. Like, hey, you know that not-so-famous podcaster Kurt Sandvig, who had viciously sparkling eyes? Viciously sparkling eyes? He was found dead under mysterious circumstances, likely killed by the men in black for knowing too much and caring even more. Look, that's the best description of a lake monster you're going to hear probably ever, but definitely on this episode. Viciously sparkling eyes. Did this guy fall in love with a lake monster that easily? But, Bessie had viciously sparkling eyes and large fins. They watching them for a while, then it went under, not to be seen again until 1896. 4 years later, we go to Crystal Beach near Fort Erie, where 4 eyewitnesses watched Bessie for 45 minutes. They said Bessie was a 30-foot creature with a dog-shaped head. Whoa, wow, things are falling. What the hell is that? I don't know what fell, whatever. A 30-foot creature with a dog-shaped head, pointy tail, and it churned up water. So again, it seems to be its common thing to do, as it swam about until finally disappearing before nightfall. The only reason they stopped watching this thing play in the water was because it was nightfall. Again, nothing monster about any of this. Ooh, it played in the water. Ooh, it swam next to our boat with its sparkling, viciously sparkly eyes. Come on. So right around that time, after, like I said, 4 eyewitnesses watched it just playing in the water, doing nothing but being, jolly, some dickhead said, hey, kill the monster and I'll give you a reward of $100,000 in 1896 money. How much is $100,000 in 1896 money? I don't know. I didn't check. Let's find out together. How much is $100,000 in 1896? Whoa, $100,000 in 1896 is equivalent of $3.9 million, over $3.9 million. So some guy in 1896 was so gung-ho about, you bring me Bessie, dead or alive, and I'll give you what is today's worth $4 million. That's insane. Okay, so that's it though, right? Just some turn of the century sightings and that's it for Bessie? Nope. Let's go to 1960. That's when Ken Golick was fishing off a pier in Sandusky, Ohio, when he heard 2 rats. Hold on one second. Come on up, Rum. Come here. Hi, sweetheart. Welcome to the show. Rum is here. Ken was fishing off a pier in Sandusky, Ohio, when he heard 2 rats. Ken, who knew what the sound of 2 rats were, apparently, was so angry at the sound of 2 rats that he started throwing rocks at the sound. And that's when his rat-detecting dumbass saw a large creature rise from the water. See, if at any time Bessie was like murderous, it should be then. Bessie apparently just making, doing an impression of two rats, doing nothing. This guy starts chucking rocks at it, should have came out of the water, just ate his ass, just bit his head off and then swam away. But no, Bessie rises out of the water. He stated the creature was cigar-shaped, measured 1 to 2 feet wide, and pushed itself out of the lake with its 4 flippers, rested on a nearby beach. So, very sea lion-y, but huge. And again, apparently, if you're wondering what Bessie sounds like, it's the sound of 2 rats. Now, this occurred at either 11 o'clock in the morning or on a clear, calm night, depending where you get your info. So, serious grain of salt to Ken Gollick in 1960. But does he mean like rats skittering? Or, I don't know why I'm asking. You guys don't know. Unless you're Ken Gollick and you're listening to this. Tell me what the hell you're talking about when you say you heard 2 rats. But anyhow, from there we move to 1969. That's when Jim Shinder stated that a serpent came within 6 feet of him near the South Bass Island in Lake Erie. Now, he did not say how long Bessie was, just that it was 2 feet wide. So, Jim is bad at describing things. Bessie skips over the 70s completely, obviously out disco dancing somewhere else. But then in 1981, we have the return of Bessie. That's when Teresa Kovich of Akron, Ohio, saw a snake-like reptile with flippers. She stated that it was so large it could have easily capsized a boat. It seemed to be playing. Again, oh so monstery. Then, 1983, Mary M. Landau said she heard a rowing sound and saw what looked like a capsized boat. It was greenish-brown in color and about 40 to 50 feet long, and that's when... Look, it's going to be hard to build, suspense. You all know what's about to happen, but that's when she realized it wasn't a boat at all, but an animal of some sort. It had a long neck. Its eyes were visible from the side, and it did absolutely nothing but look at her and swim away. Cut to 1985. Tony Schill of Akron, Ohio, saw a giant serpent when he was out boating. It was dark brown, had a long flat tail, so a different kind of description. Tony stated that 5 humps came out of the water, and there was, quote, no way it was a sturgeon. A friend also boating with Tony said that he came face-to-face with the creature and said it had 5 humps and was black-colored. Come here. You. I assume that's the only reason that Tony stopped being friends with this person is because Tony says brown, no-name guy says black in color. That's why he never gave them that guy a name in any of his stories. Hi, Rum. How are ya? Welcome to the show. Yes, you're a good girl. We're talking about Bessie, which is the dumbest name ever for a Lake Erie monster. Not a monster. Alrighty, staying in 1985, Dale Monroe spotted a sea serpent from the Lorraine Coast Guard station. He said it was visible for 4 minutes, estimated to be twice the size of his 16-foot sailboat, so 32 feet. You can just say 32 feet. Don't make me do math. That's about it for that sighting. We go to 1989. Oh, 1989. Hold on. A young Kurt Sandvig was graduating from high school in landlocked Michigan town. His whole life ahead of him, unaware that just a couple of hours away, Gail Kastner received a fish finder graph from a boat owned by his friend. He went out to find fish with his fish finder, but he found love. Or Bessie, or both, I don't know. The fish finder had a sonar reading of a large, cigar-shaped apparition 35 feet long and 30 feet underwater. 1990, things were still going for Bessie. First, Bob Sirocco was jet skiing in Lake Erie when he saw a porpoise or a whale in the lake. But again, porpoises and whales can't live in freshwater. Despite its size, Lake Erie isn't an ocean. I want to make sure that gets across to everyone. Bob said that he recognized an aquatic air breather when he saw one, and that the creature had humps and gray spots. He said it was very long. Sure. And the reason that he was so adamant about this, he had just moved from Florida up to Lake Erie and said he knew what dolphins and whales looked like. Not necessarily whales, because I don't think they have whales in Florida, but still, he knew when they came up and they breathe there and they go down. He said that's what this thing was doing. He was very, very adamant about it. Let's see. Another sighting occurred that same year. Unnamed person saw Bessie, said it was 35 feet long and had a snake-like head. From there, we go to September 4th, 1990. Harold Bricker and his family were fishing north of Cedar Point Amusement Park. Yay! Wait. I know Cedar Point. When a serpent-type creature swam by their boat about 1,000 feet away. Their description, 35 feet long with a snake-like head. It moved as fast as their boat. Later, the Brickers reported the sighting to the ODNR Rangers at East Harbor State Park, who were, quote, not surprised. September 11th, 1990, fire inspectors Jim Johnson, hi, thank you, I love you too, Jim Johnson and Steve Dirks of Huron saw the creature from a third-story window facing Lake Erie. They described it as dark blue or black at about 30 to 45 feet long. He further stated that he saw 3 parts of the creature above the water. It laid there motionless for 3 to 6 minutes and was flat on top. Then, week of September 16th, 1991, David Shashinsky of Toledo saw Bessie near Toledo's water intake structure 3 miles offshore in Maumee Bay. Maumee? Sure, why not? He was fishing in the bay when he said something long and black slithered in front of him, very, very close by. But that's about it for sightings with any sort of descriptions. But still, you know, Bessie could still be out there waiting to do you absolutely no harm and just look at you with those eyes. Yeah, I was really surprised how many named, detailed sightings there were of the Lake Erie monster, or what they call Bessie. So, wow, that's one down. But are there more other Nessie rhyming lake monsters out there, Kurt? Well, yeah. That's what this episode is mostly about, okay? So let's move on to another one that rhymes with Nessie for no reason. Go ahead, Rum. Hop down. Good girl. Let's go to Cressy. Yeah, Cressy. We go to Crescent Lake, Roberts Arm, Newfoundland, and Labrador, Canada, which is way too many names for a town, but sure, let's go there. So, yeah, it's named Cressy because of Crescent Lake, and they wanted a Nessie. They fully admit it. They named it Cressy because they wanted their own Nessie. Also, it's pretty much a given that Cressy is just some huge-ass eel, but since they are so big, I'll consider them monsters, and we can continue on with this story. But don't be surprised, they're just huge-ass eels. All right, we go back to the first sighting in the 80s, I believe. I got it cut off. I did not save something. Hold on, I want to confirm the first sighting of Cressy, because I clipped my notes just a minute ago. Okay. Well, where's the date for you? Come on. No, that's the 50s sighting. You know what? A lot of these sightings are in the 50s, so I'm going to assume it's in the 50s. I apologize if I have this one wrong, but I did clip my notes, my outline. So it just says, for this first one, we go back to the S. What S? The 80s? The 50s? The 60s? But I think it's the 50s. That's when an elderly resident, I know this one, of Roberts Arm, known as Grandma Anthony, or Grandmother Anthony, was startled by a giant serpent in the lake when she was out berry picking. That's weird. This next part I know is the 50s. 2 woodsmen were on the shore of the lake when they noticed an upturned boat. Again, that seems to be a common thing with lake monsters, is that whole they look like an upturned boat, and then you go and look, like, oh, I got to go help these people. Ha-ha! It's just me floating there doing you no harm. But they said they noticed an upturned boat. Fearing for its occupants, they hurried towards it. However, as they approached, the boat turned out to be something large and slick, which slipped beneath the waters of the lake. So they went back to being woodsmen in the woods together. Then, jump ahead a little bit, we go to the 80s, when a pilot crashed and drowned in Crescent Lake. While 2 scuba divers were attempting to retrieve his body, they were attacked by a school, not just one, but a school of uncommonly large eels, and were forced to retreat the retrieval of the body. They couldn't even retrieve the body. They had to retreat. So again, spoiler, Lots of people think they know what Cressy is. A school of uncommonly large eels, that's a lake monster, people. I don't care. And it's not really a lake monster, but for a dumb, not a monster, that's what that thing is. Large eels, like I'm talking huge monster eels. Sure, that counts as far as I'm concerned. But we go to 1990. When a local resident reported a slim black shape rise 5 feet from a patch of churning water before sinking out of sight. Then on July 9th, 1991, Fred Parsons and his wife, who cares about her name, and for every story ever about these kinds of things, it's 1991. Say your wife's name when you look here. If you want to take something away from this episode, it's this: if you see a UFO, a ghost, something paranormal, a cryptid, and you happen to be with your wife and you talk to the news about it, say, "Oh, I'm sorry, and this is my wife, Betty." Give her name. Don't just be like, yeah, it was me and my wife. We were out looking and we see this thing. It's a large snake-like creature swimming in Crescent Lake. It was a long, sleek body without a significantly large head, which was laying level with the water. Look, Fred, 1991. What's your wife's name? Come on. It angers me that in the 90s, like in the 50s, every news story is like, Mrs. Fred Johnson. No, what's her name? But this is 1991. Sorry, little tangent. But anyhow, like I said, he described it as long, sleek body without a significantly large head, which was laying level with the water. In September of that same year, another resident was returning to town when he when he noticed a disturbance on the surface of the lake. As he watched, the object dropped beneath the surface, then rose again. He described it as a black, 15-foot-long shape of some kind, pitching forward in a rolling motion, much as a whale does, but with no sign of a fin. He said it sank out of water and did not reappear. Look, there were a lot of sightings in 1995, a ton of them, but they're all very nondescript. We saw this thing. It was like a sea serpent, like an eel, like a Nessie, like a monster, very nondescript. Summer student crew working on the boardwalk along the lake spotted the monster in 2000. During the summer of 2003, several town residents say they saw it swimming for at least, like they would see it again and again and again and again. And then nothing in 2004. And a lot of people were like, oh no, Cressy died. But a passenger in a passing car shrieked at the driver as she looked out towards the lake and watched as the monster surfaced, its skin shiny and slick under the summer sun. Whoa, this is getting intense. Both watched water pour from the monster's gaping mouth. It was about 20 feet in length. Man, I need like porn music in the back. It was about 20 feet in length and swam silently across the top of the lake before diving down into the cool depths once more. Sweat glistened off her chest. She turned to the driver. His breath quickened. It doesn't say any of that, but I mean, it doesn't say the ending part of that. But like, that is a descriptive. That tells me someone's trying to be a writer on that one. My God. Basically, some woman was in the passenger seat. Her husband was driving, and she saw a monster surface, and it was black, slick skin, and then it went underwater. Oh, they saw the monster's mouth, and that was it. About 20 feet long. But boy, howdy, they're getting into it. Then, in the winter, it is said that large holes often appear in the ice that cover Crescent Lake, leading some to speculate that the holes were created not by something falling into the lake, but by something bursting through the ice. Let's keep on keeping on. Vivian Short saw Cressy swimming again. She described the creature as a serpentine-like animal with a head like a fish. CBC News reported that Ada Rousel, the town's clerk, said Vivian wasn't the only one reporting sights of Crescent lately. I've had several reports of sightings. People citing some kind of huge monster or sea serpent or some kind of fish. That's about all I could find for sightings, though. 2003 seemed to be like the hot spot, and then it kind of died out again. But if we go back in time a little bit to 1991 in that same town, the town of Roberts Arm, they erected a statue of Cressy at the entrance to the community, along with like a storyboard which described the alleged sightings. It's there for tourism. And you know what? Rightfully so. This is a town that really wouldn't have any kind of tourism, but Cressy has given it them. You know, why not? They have, Cressy is featured in several of the Come Home Year celebrations. The 1995 Come Home Year commemorative book includes several poems which refer to Cressy, including this passage by Jim Payne. I suppose you've heard of Cressy, the monster. Oh, I fucked it up already. Hold on. Just take two. All right, round, ready? I suppose you've heard of Cressy, the monster in the lake. If you get too handy, she'll give her tail a shake. All right. She'll set you a boat a-rocking, and you won't believe your eyes. And people will make fun of you and say you're telling lies. So, yeah. Anyhow, Cressy helped the town's economy. I think it's awesome. In reality, like I say, a lot of people think it's not a lake monster. It's just a bunch of unordinarily large-sized eels, which don't care. Unexplainedly gigantic eels are just as much as a monster as any other sea serpent or lake monster. Who cares if they're identified? If they're freakishly large and abundant where they shouldn't be, sure, that is a quote-unquote lake monster, not a monster. But yeah, so anyhow, Cressy, dumb Nessie name, ripoff name, but I kind of see it, though, because it's a take on Crescent Lake, which brings us to not even close to the final one for this episode, but not close to the final one ever, but for this episode, the final one, I should say, we have, let's go over to Tessie. That's right, Tessie of Lake Tahoe in California. Let me repeat that. Tessie of Lake Tahoe. Nope, F you. You could have called her Hoey for no reason, or Tahoe, but Tessie? Get the F out of here. Anyhow, we go to Lake Tahoe, which, if you aren't aware, is a deep as shit, scary ass lake that holds a shit ton of dead bodies. I'm serious. Let me take you down a side rabbit hole real quick. Lake Tahoe, because of its extreme depth, up to 1,643 foot deep, its freezing temperatures, and its high pressure, acts as a deep water preserve. There are all sorts of reasons for a ton of dead bodies in Lake Tahoe, besides, people drowning. But the most popular one is the mob. Now, is it confirmed? Is it a rumor? Is it an urban legend? I don't know, but there are rumors of the mob dumping people in Lake Tahoe for decades. It was considered a hotspot place to murder and hide a body forever. There is one terrifying story of a 2011 recovery of a diver who had been missing in the lake's frigid waters for 17 years. So some scuba diver swimming around in Lake Tahoe and went, oh, look, there's a dead scuba diver stuck in a crevasse in Lake Tahoe. So they had to send down an ROV because it's too cold and too deep for humans to recover the body. They snag him with a little robot arm and then pull the body back out, still wearing his wetsuit and everything else. But because of the cold storage of the lake, the body was found intact. Now, they say there is a good chance that all the bodies that lay on the very bottom of the lake have now been eaten by the mass amounts of crayfish that they have. That's creepy alone. So there's probably more skeletons at the bottom of this lake than bodies. So that's fun. Anyhow, back to stupid Tessie. Look, it's actually, before I get back to stupid Tessie, there's also this grain of salt, huge, serious grain of salt legend about Chinese railroad workers who, when they got tired or stopped working, boom, kill them, throw them in Lake Tahoe. Then they try to run away. Boom, kill them and dump them in the lake. So there's a bunch of those people down there, a bunch of swimmers and people that come up, like tourists that come up and go swimming and get tired and just, they go down. And because, again, of the water and the cold and the pressure and blah, 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 the bodies don't ever come back up. So they just go down. It's terrifying. It's a terrifying rabbit hole to go down. I will say that one of the stories I had always heard was Jacques Cousteau. If you don't know who Jacques Cousteau was, he did this show back in the day, and he was like an oceanographer. He went and, dove and did like submersibles and stuff and told us about the waters. That's how I learned about a bunch of fish when I was a kid. But they said Jacques Cousteau went to Lake Tahoe and filmed an episode. He scuba dived in Lake Tahoe, and when he came up, he said the world is not ready for the horrors that are below the surface of the water. That always terrified me. I can't find anything that proves that happened. I think that is an urban legend, but it's out there. I told you it as an urban legend. If you want to deep dive it even more and find out if it's true, cool. Doesn't matter. Lake Tahoe, you're going to be swimming around. Just know you're swimming and there's dead bodies. All sorts of dead bodies underneath you. That's terrifying. Anyhow, back to stupid Tessie. We go way back to legends of a water monster originating from the native Washoe and, I already forgot how to say this one, Peyote tribes. I think it's Peyote. Then, well, absolutely nothing from the indigenous people up until June of 1982. So, yes, Tessie took some serious time off. Anyhow, June 1982, Ebony and Ivory was at the top of the charts, sung famously by a beetle that died and a blind guy that can see. And that's when off-duty Reno police officers water skiing on the lake reported an encounter with an unusually large identified creature. Officers Chris Beebe and Jerry Jones, again, they were water skiing in the Lake Tahoe in June 1982 when an unusually large creature swam by them. How terrifying is that? You're water skiing behind a boat in one of the deepest lakes in the area, and something huge swims by you? How do you maintain, like you have to because you don't want to fall in the water, you don't want to fall off or anything off those skis, but that's freaking terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. Then, June 1984, Ghostbusters was in the cinema and Tessie was in our hearts. I don't know. Two local hikers spotted an estimated 17-foot creature surface 3 times like a little submarine. And it resulted in headlines that actually went around the world. I was going to say headlines across the United States, but they did go around the world, called Tessie, the Monster of Lake Tahoe, Adventure Scuba. Why Adventure Scuba? I don't know. Then, still in 1984, the Chronicle reported that on July 12th, 1984, the San Francisco Chronicle, that is, it reported hikers spotted a 17-foot-long humpback creature swimming in a whale-like manner. Tahoe residents Patsy McKay and Diane Stavrakis, were hiking above the west shore when they spotted the creature swimming in the lake. McKay said the beast was about 17 feet long. She watched it closely and saw it surface 3 times, quote, like a little submarine. Her companion said the creature had a humpback and seemed to surface in a whale-like lethargic manner. She was also sure that it wasn't a diver, a log, or a large ripple. Well, yeah. None of those 3 things pop up like a humpbacked whale. Come on. Then, nothing. Everyone feared Tessie has died. People are just swimming hundreds of feet above dead bodies, which again, way scarier than any lake monster ever. And frankly, I'm gonna go off on a side tangent for a second here. Look, I found out that I was in my inflatable kayak just paddling along like an idiot with Stitch, by the way, which was a wonderful trip. Stitch and I had a nice little camping trip with a buddy of mine. I don't think my buddy enjoyed it, but Stitch and I sure as shit did. We're just, paddling along in an inflatable kayak on Lake Piru, which is notorious for dead bodies under the water. In fact, one of the girls from Glee, one of the cursed Glee cast members that died, died in Lake Piru. And they said her body may never, come back up because there's a bunch of trees and shit down below. So bodies, sink, get trapped under a log and never make it way back up. But that terrified me. It made me realize I fear swimming with dead bodies way more than a lake monster, like I said. To be fair, I fear swimming in a pool with a bunch of people on the 4th of July more than any lake monster. Why? Because they're all drinking, no one's getting out of the pool, and now I'm swimming in pee. Look, I just don't like public pools. If I want to swim in pee, I'll go back to my old Van Nuys neighborhood and pay a sex worker like a normal person. But look, if you're in a public pool and you got to pee, don't just go like, I'm just going to pee in the pool. Whatever. No, because then I don't ever want to swim in a pool. Like, you're making me never want to go into a pool. That's your goal? Congratulations. You did it. I don't like swimming in pee. I'm sorry. I'm the weirdo. But anyhow, where was I? 2004. That's right. Cut to 2004. Nessie hasn't been heard of since whatever date, like 1984 or whatever it was. 2004, an off-duty boat worker snapped a photograph of a large black hump in the water, making people wonder, was Tessie back? Yay, Tessie lives. Then nothing for a while. So then I went down a rabbit hole of people seem to have figured out a pattern for Tessie. It seemed like for a bit, every June, every 2 years, but not just 2 years, every 2 even-numbered years, Tessie would show up, swim around a little bit, and then kind of go away by July. And why? No idea. There is zero idea of why it seems like every June, every even-numbered 2 years, Tessie's back. So get this. We're in June right now of 2026. There is a chance, fingers crossed, one of you guys go to Lake Tahoe, swim above a bunch of dead bodies for me, and see if you can find a Tessie. Let's continue the Tessie sightings. Another rabbit hole I went down about Lake Tahoe, which I didn't know about, is, again, this is rumored, just grain of salt it, but there's this theory that there is an underground river system that links the lake with Pyramid Lake in Nevada. And apparently, the bodies of people who have drowned in Lake Tahoe have surfaced in Lake Pyramid, which is 50 miles to the north. But with just a little bit of digging, I think they figured out what might be occurring. It's not so much that there's an underground river system. There might be. They don't know. But what they think is actually happening with these corpses are the corpses are floating over the North Tahoe spillway onto the Truckee River and then downstream to Pyramid Lake. So, yeah, that's fun. That's really, I will say that I live by the beautiful LA River now. If you don't know the LA River, the LA River was cemented over to prevent catastrophic flooding in the 1930s after the 1938 flood claimed hundreds of lives. So it's not like, it doesn't look like you're walking by a river. It's not the best river to walk along. It's like walking along a cemented drain or most of the year, a deep cemented channel of nothing. There's not even water. It's just, like a cement channel. But even still, like right now, it has about 2 feet of flowing water. And when Rum and I walk along it, which is every day now, it's beautiful. I will say the area that I live in, Studio City, thumbs up, double thumbs up, love it. But so we walk along the LA River on our walk every day. And no joke, seriously, always, I am waiting to see a dead body slowly floating by in 2 feet of water. And don't worry, I will let you know when I do. But yeah, like the LA River has dead bodies in it. They found dead bodies in it. So it is very possible that these bodies that are drowning in Lake Tahoe are going over this spillway into this river downstream to Pyramid Lake. A fun ride for a dead body. I mean, if I'm dead, if I die and my body is going on a, whitewater rapid ride, sure, knock itself out. I would much rather have that than someone diddling me when I'm dead. So whitewater rapid me all you want. But anyhow, what the hell was I talking about? That was about it. That was about it for the sightings of Tessie. But again, June 2026, we're here, we're now. It's been a 2-year, it's been an even year. There is a chance that hopefully Tessie will be sighted again. So that about does it for this part 1. What's that? What? That's right. Part 2 of this episode is already outlined, ready to go. So there'll be even more lake monsters, not a monsters, on the next episode of Paranormal Almanac. But what do you guys think? Do you guys consider a known, like we know what it is that's causing these lake monster sightings, giant eels or giant catfish or giant sturgeons? Do you consider them qualified, or are they lake monsters? Can we call them that? Because I honestly do. I still think they're giant. Giants are monsters, apparently for some stupid reason. But once again, I'm your host, Kurt Sandvig, and this has been another edition of Paranormal Almanac. Get out there, swim around, and pee. The holidays are coming up. 4th of July is coming up. It's starting to warm up. Make your friends swim in your pee. Him not eat my zeal.